At the age of 28, Tola left Abuja with all of her belongings packed into a dusty Ghana must-go bag. She made no attempt to remember the old salon where her boss was always abusive, Dio, the boyfriend who disappeared after 4 years, or the fake friends who only thought about her when they needed a fast loan or free braids. "I'm never returning to Abuja. It's not for me," she told herself. Tola set out for a tiny town named Otokun Waterside with restored energy and a strong resolve. She had heard that living there was quite inexpensive and peaceful, but no one told her that the town held a secret under the river, and that the peace came at a steep price. In order to earn the funds necessary to launch her salon business, Tola began looking for various employment options in the neighborhood 2 weeks after her arrival. She sold akara by the roadside. She worked as a salesgirl in a provision store and even engaged in inexpensive hookups at night. It took Tola almost a month to get everything ready for the salon's opening. However, her budget of 15,000 naira was nowhere near half the cost, and the stores were quite pricey. However, one day she was informed by her friend Aoife about an abandoned structure near the riverbank. "No one has entered that building in 12 years, Aoife stated. Without hesitation, Tola shouted with delight. "At last, God has answered my prayers," she said. Tola went straight to the structure the next day. Upon entering, her heart leaped with joy. She didn't care that the location was ancient and covered in rust, with heavy cobwebs in every nook. She began cleaning the place right away, finishing in just 5 hours. She purchased all the required tools at the market the following day, and in just 2 weeks, the salon was open for business. She named it Tola's Glow, as Tola launched a salon in a structure that had been abandoned for years. The neighborhood looked on in horror. Tola noticed their gaze, but she didn't mind, since the salon was close to the river, which provided just peace and progress. She was certain that the villagers would flood in large numbers. However, months went by, but her salon was empty. Not even a fly was inside. She would wave to passers-by from outside her stall every day in the hopes that they would come to her salon. However, nobody did. "What's the problem? Is there a curse on me? Why isn't anybody visiting my salon?" she queried Aoife, her friend. "I think it's because of where your salon is located, my dear," Aoife said in response. "What? Why is it bad to start a salon along the riverbank? The river provides only peace, and the vista is magnificent. I didn't hesitate when you told me about this location for that reason." "Tola, I think I made a mistake by telling you about this place," Aoife said. "I would urge you to leave here." But Tola stood firm. She had such a strong faith in the river that she ignored the hard stares and paid no attention to anybody who attempted to give her advice. Tola lacked the funds to purchase adequate food. On some days, she would eat bread and water simply to feel satisfied. On her worst days, she would soak a sachet of gari in cool river water. According to the villagers, the river was cursed and no business could ever thrive there. However, Tola did not believe in curses. She had faith in herself and in the river. She did, at least, up until the night it rained, when, despite not seeing anyone pass that evening, she heard someone knock on her door. Who knocks on a salon door in a forsaken community at midnight, she pondered. Tola was startled by the knock on her door moments after the rain had subsided. It made a quiet, delicate sound, like fingertips pressing against wood. Her heartbeat began to race at that point. At that late hour, around midnight, nobody ever visited her salon. She was still trying to figure out who the person could be when she heard another knock. She initially attempted to disregard the individual, but the pounding continued. She murmured silent prayers as she made 3 crosses over her chest. After that, she tiptoed to the door, opened it softly, and was astonished to see a woman standing there. Her hair was dripping with water, and she was barefoot and dripping wet. She resembled a human being, but there was an oddness to her demeanor. The lady stood quietly inside after entering the establishment without asking any questions. With trepidation, Tola said, "Good evening. What do you want, please?" "My name is Adaeze, and I've come to make you rich," the woman said with a slight smile. "Your concerns and silent prayers trouble my spirit, and I have witnessed them," she stated. "I don't get it. Who are you, and how do you want to make me wealthy? Do you want to purchase my twisted wigs? Asked Tola, her voice trembling. You'll know who I am when the time comes. Selling my wigs is all I ask of you. Keep the money from the sale. Make sure, however, that you sell them. The lady then went away in that manner. Tola chased after her, but the woman was already entering the river in front of her salon. As if an old buddy, the water embraced her, and she vanished below the surface in a matter of seconds. Tola could only see her long hair. When Tola awoke the following day, she saw a black nylon bag in front of her salon. After taking a few minutes to look at it, she carried it inside. She opened it with shaky hands, and to her astonishment, she discovered a variety of wigs within. The bag contained a variety of hair, including brown sweet hair, ranging from bouncy to single donor to double drawn. Can these be the wigs that the woman mentioned? However, what would I say to Aoife? How can I tell people where I got the money to purchase these wigs? What have I gotten myself into, God? Someone knocked on her door as she was still thinking about it. But it wasn't Adaeze this time. A young lady touching her phone. Hello, dear. Are you the one who styles hair here? On Instagram, I came across your salon. Tola blinked twice. On Instagram? She wasn't even on Instagram. 2 additional ladies arrived before she could comprehend what the woman had said, followed by 3, then 5, and the numbers kept rising. A queue started to form outside her little salon around 10 a.m., but every one of the ladies was a stranger. Some were from the neighboring community. Others claimed that they departed their workplace jobs early because they were instructed to do so by an inner voice. However, the most frightening aspect of the entire experience was that the majority of the women were unable to articulate how they had first learned about Tola. Despite her anxiety and confusion, Tola made the choice for herself due to the weight of her debt and the emptiness in her stomach. She began braiding their hair at once, and she was done before nightfall. She sold her wigs for 150,000 naira apiece, and 5 of the 15 women who came that day purchased them. Tola made over 1 million naira on that day alone, just like that. She remained on the floor with her mouth agape in amazement as the ladies departed right away. She was unsure of whether to weep or rejoice. Is this a dream come true or a trap? What exactly have I gotten myself into? She questioned. She considered fleeing with the money, but Adaeze came to her in a dream and cautioned her to never leave the premises. She urged her to remodel it to her liking, and every morning when she awoke, she would discover a black nylon bag full of wigs outside her salon, and she would bring it inside with a deep sigh. And just like that, Tola's glow gained widespread recognition in the neighborhood and elsewhere. Her salon was rumored to be more than simply a typical salon. It was said to be a place where you could rediscover your happiness. The women who arrived looking weary and sad left with happy faces and a happy attitude. One bashful youngster who barely said hello danced away and filmed herself with assurance. "I feel so powerful," screamed another woman as she examined herself in the mirror. Her dusty salon became the most popular spot in the neighborhood overnight, and perhaps even the entire state. But Tola enjoyed what was happening, even though she still didn't know what it was. She hired additional people, renovated the entire structure, and purchased contemporary machinery. The community women, who had formerly paid her no attention, now began to visit her salon. She launched an Instagram page for her business, and soon she began selling her wigs there. She lied to her friend Aoife when asked about her abrupt change, claiming that it was her uncle in America who provided the funds for her to launch the business. But soon, odd tales started to circulate regarding some of the clients who purchased her wigs. Amaka, an unemployed single mother who had been unsuccessfully requesting grants for more than a year, was where it all began. She wore one of the wigs she purchased from Tola to a wedding, and the following day, she received a $5,000 grant from an overseas corporation for a food business she had given up 2 years prior. 2 weeks after purchasing Tola's wig, Sade, another woman who had been trying to get pregnant for 8 years, became pregnant. And then there was Bolanle, a reserved college student who usually sat in the back of the classroom. She uploaded a brief video of herself on TikTok wearing a gorgeous black wig she bought from Tola. She was shocked to discover that she had a brand deal and 2 million views the following morning. The mermaid Bardi was the name that even her supporters gave her. Not one of the women could tell how their life had changed suddenly. However, they were only aware that the situation began to improve as soon as they put on Tola's wig. What was going on was beyond Tola's comprehension. Business was moving more quickly than she had anticipated. She got a lot of customer reviews on a daily basis, attesting to the amazing things her wigs did. She convinced herself that she was fortunate and that maybe God had at last thought of her. She would occasionally be up at night wondering, why are these wigs doing this? Who is Adaeze anyway? But in all this, Mama Ireti was there watching silently. Mama Ireti would set up a puff-puff table only a few steps from Tola's store every day. In her 60s, she had a round face, powerful arms, and a Bible that was constantly in her hand. The village prophetess was the moniker given to her by her late spouse. She kept an eye out. She observed the shifts before anybody else. The women were the first to arrive, then the wigs came next, all appearing as if they belonged in a higher realm. After that, she began to see odd signals. Her 2 goats wouldn't approach Tola's establishment. Whenever she attempted to drive them past the store, they would bleat, tug, and even kick their legs. Mama Ireti then had a dream one night. Tola was braiding hair, but the chairs were occupied by shadows rather than patrons. Their eyes were wide open, and their hair continued to grow like snakes. She approached Tola the following day. "My child," she murmured, "I have no idea what spirit gave you that talent, but pay attention to me. God's gifts are given slowly. However, the water first overwhelms you with gold before pulling your feet." "Mama, business is just moving finely," Tola remarked with a courteous smile. However, she felt nauseous inside because she couldn't understand why her hands shook every time she picked up a new wig from Adaeze. The rain began to pound Tola's roof like fists on one fateful night at approximately 10 p.m. The neighborhood was engulfed by thunder, and lightning flashed white in the sky. As she attempted to calm her anxiety, Tola remained alone inside, clutching a hot mug of tea in her hands. Once again, she had strange dreams, with hairs that moved on their own, water in her mirrors, and voices in her ears. She attempted to disregard it, but something didn't sit right with her. She then heard a knock at her door out of nowhere. Tola's hand moved. She stated, "No one should be outside in this weather." She opened the door with shaky hands, and to her astonishment, Adaeze was standing there dripping wet. "Are you happy with who you have become?" Adaeze inquired softly. Tola paused for a moment before grinning. "Yes, I do." Adaeze entered and set a gold box on the table. "These are unique wigs. They're for people who wish to make drastic shifts in their life," she stated. Tola knelt down beside the box and carefully opened it. The wigs within had a subtle shine, resembling candlelight caught in the strands of hair. One appeared to be composed of fog, while the other had purple flames whirling around its perimeter. Tola's hand trembled. "I'm not sure if I should continue doing this," she murmured. "Then refuse the gift," Adaeze said, tilting her head in rage. "However, the river would take more than this if you did." Adaeze just turned around and disappeared without saying another word. Tola was shaking with dread. She understood she had made a pact with a monster, but she could never return to her former life. All that mattered was that she was famous and rich. She advertised the wigs at an exorbitant price on her Instagram account the following day. In her captions, she made it clear that it was intended for individuals looking for breakthroughs. And orders came in quickly. But 3 days later, Nancy B., a well-known Instagram model, and one of Tola's most recent customers who purchased her radiant wigs, was discovered dead in her apartment with the wig on her head. According to the report, there was no evidence of any break-in, wounds, or bruises. However, the fact that her lungs were full of water was the most terrifying aspect. According to the doctor, it appeared as though she had drowned, but there was no evidence that she had. Tola's phone, however, wouldn't stop ringing. Some individuals were weeping, while others were demanding the same wig that Nancy B was wearing. Tola sat in her salon, her hands trembling. She had a shallow breath and numb hands. She grabbed the golden box, sprinted outside in the dark, and hurled it into the river with all her might as the rain poured down that night. "Please, take your property and leave me alone," she screamed in terror. However, the box was beautifully perched on her table when she opened her salon the following morning. She came to the conclusion at this point that there was no going back. From the outside, Tola had everything she had prayed for: riches, renown, and purpose. People traveled from all over the country to sit in her chair, and her salon was fully booked for months. The media referred to her as a hair healer, brands made her offers, and newspapers sought interviews. But she was falling apart on the inside. The most terrifying part of her existence were her dreams, and whenever she touched the wigs, her hands felt a tingling sensation. She would observe women with no faces combing their long, damp hair with combs fashioned from bones. They would sing songs in a language she didn't comprehend, but the words would reverberate in her mind as she awoke. However, she was unsure of her emotions throughout. She occasionally felt content, while at other times she held herself accountable for letting the door open that evening. Adaeze, however, returned one calm morning, carrying a silver box with a single wig inside. A folded note that read, "This wig is just for you," was lying on top of the wig. After a moment of contemplation, Tola gently put the wig on her head. Her body stopped moving as soon as it made contact with her scalp. Her head rolled back, and her thoughts broke apart like wind in a storm. She had a vision out of nowhere. The community members were dragging Adaeze into the river while she was screaming in the vision. After that, she noticed her salon, but it wasn't a salon anymore. The scene took place underwater, where a group of ghostly women were having their hair styled in slow motion. They were singing, their lips were parted, and their eyes were vacant. Tola attempted to rip the wig off, but it wouldn't budge. She then glanced in the mirror, and her heart skipped a beat at what she saw. She now had fish eyes, which were not like her original eyes, deep, chilly, and round. Tola's lips quivered before she gave a slight smile. Thanks for watching. Part 2 is coming soon.